Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Application Support webinar for the Freight Innovation Fund Accelerator. My name is Andrea. I am Accelerator Program Manager at Connected Places Catapult, and I'll be leading the Freight Innovation Fund Accelerator. Just to let you know, we are recording this webinar and we will share the video and presentation with you in a few days in case you would like to rewatch it to clarify any doubts. Also, you can always email me and I'll be more than happy to support you with your application. Please feel free to use the Q&A button at your right side and ask any questions throughout the presentation that we will get to those at the end. Please, next slide. Okay, let's quickly review the agenda for today. So we will start introducing the Department for Transport, who is funding this program, and David Elvey from DFT will provide an overview of the future of freight strategy of the government. Then Alistair Ritchie, head of the SME development team at Connected Places Catapult, will introduce the Freight Innovation Fund and explain the difference between the accelerator and the Freight Innovation Cluster. I will follow Alistair providing an overview of our first accelerator program, and then my colleagues Nick and Alessandra from the service design team will explain the accelerator program challenges. To finish, I will go through the selection process and how to apply to the program, and then we will have our Q&A section at the end. So once again, please feel free to leave your questions in the Q&A box. Next slide, please. Okay, now I'm going to hand over to David Ellie, who is the head of the Future of Freight Strategy at DFT.
Am I on? Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me, and I hope that you can also see me. And apologies, we were warned there is a slight delay as we move from one speaker to another, so do bear with us. So as Andrea said, my name is David Elvey. I lead a program in the Department for Transport called the Future of Freight. We are part of a larger directorate that focuses on logistics and supply chains. And I suppose in the context of this, we are the money. So we have persuaded the Treasury to donate £7 million to the Freight Innovation Fund, and we are working with the Connected Places Catapult to deliver it. My role today, I think, is not to take up too much time, but to sort of provide, as Andrea suggested, the kind of context for this programme and how it fits into the government's sort of wider priorities, and then hand over to Connected Places Catapult to take you through the more important detail of how you get directly involved. So we go on to the next slide, please. So I think it's fair to say historically, government has not overly focused on freight and logistics. It's privately owned, privately operated, and we have largely left it to do the excellent job that it does. Where we have intervened, it tends to be to regulate the external costs of the sector, whether those are environmental, congestion, road safety, and so on. But in the last 3 or 4 years, things have started to shift, starting, I think, with a report from the National Infrastructure Commission in 2019, which essentially instructed government to raise the status of freight in its policy making, and in doing so, at least attempt to think about freight as a cross-modal system rather than a series of independent modes. And then I think some bad for everybody else, but perhaps not so bad for the status of freight. The impact of COVID on supply chains, the inflation in global shipping systems, the disruption to those supply chains, not helped probably by the transition through Brexit, and then most recently the further disruption from the war in Russia and Ukraine has kind of served to raise that status and to focus more senior levels of government on this sector. And so in the middle of COVID, essentially, the government decided that rather than respond as it traditionally does quite short and sharp to the National Infrastructure Commission. It would instead embark on something slightly more adventurous and slightly more ambitious. And so what we produced last year, after about sort of 12 months of intensive work, was the Future of Freight, a long-term plan. And what that plan essentially does is it states the government's position on freight, that it recognises its importance, not just as an economic sector in its own right, it is big, but also the role that it plays underpinning every single supply chain into, across and out of the UK. We cannot do without it, essentially, is the insight that government has finally managed to obtain. So the Future of Freight plan itself, it was a highly collaborative effort with industry. We have a industry group chaired by a minister called the Freight Council, and all things went through that. We engaged widely with all parts of the sector as we developed the plan. And what we were trying to do was identify the problem statements, identify what our ambition is in each of those areas, and then to develop what we call the kind of first actions that we should take in order to move forward to achieve those aims and objectives. So what we've got in the plan itself are 5 chapters, which you can see bottom left. The one that this particular project relates to is the data and technology chapter, and we'll talk a bit more about that on the next slide. But we've also got a focus on understanding the system itself, how things flow, what the value of those flows are. We recognise the importance of sort of maintaining the workforce, having the right skills at the right time to manage the various transitions that the industry has to have, as well as address sort of current shortages. We found a niche within the transition to net zero, sort of focused particularly on the provision of the infrastructure, the energy infrastructure. And finally, because as far as I can tell, there's not a single player in the freight space who thinks the planning system is excellent. We've also undertaken to do some more work in that space, particularly around building our understanding and our evidence of how the system perhaps doesn't act as effectively as it could for the freight network by publishing a call for evidence. On those 4, you will see more action shortly, but today the focus is on data and technology. So if we quickly flip on to the next slide, please. Brilliant. And I will do that too. So the chapter itself essentially has two main components to it, one of which is the Freight Innovation Fund. We also talked quite a lot about how we can help bring the industry together. So what we identified as a challenge is there's a problem of awareness of innovation within the freight logistics sector. So there are a lot of small players, particularly on the road freight side. And so getting the availability of new solutions to trickle down through those fleets is quite challenging. There's also a general sort of lack of understanding between industry and government, I think, on how we get viable technologies to market. And I think there's also, it's a relatively low margin sector. And so beyond some of the larger players, it can be quite challenging to take risk, and innovation in many cases is all about risk. So we set as a strategic goal for innovation that we would build that awareness, that we would find a way to accelerate the adoption of technology, and we would seek to sort of set up a system that would help to identify the future pipeline. So what we're trying to achieve through this programme, and also through the Transport Research and Innovation Grant Programme, which is essentially the early stage, the sort of high risk venture capital right at the start of the innovation process, is to provide a kind of end-to-end funding system. I mean, obviously we are starting relatively small, but one hopes if this programme is successful, then we can go on to bigger and better things. So we will look at, on this programme, the latter stages of the innovation thing. How do you run large-scale trials? How do you raise the commerciality and get things to market? So that's what we're trying to achieve with the Freight Innovation Fund. And we've set sort of 3 high-level objectives for it. Don't worry about it, you don't need to fully understand it from what I say. Alistair and others are going to take you into the detail of this. But This money has come from the government's R&D program for decarbonisation. So we have to have a focus on reducing environmental impacts, which conveniently is one of the sort of core objectives of the Future of Freight plan. We have also recognised government's current priority around levelling up. I think that's a good thing for the freight sector. It is perhaps more than any other sector driven by geography as much as it's driven by other economic drivers like agglomeration. You need to move stuff in the most economic way, which means that you tend to need to locate it between centres of population or centres of consumption. And I've mentioned Brexit, I've mentioned Ukraine, I've definitely mentioned COVID. There is a massive focus within government, not just within the DfT, led by DIT, to understand and improve the resilience of our supply chains. Now, the focus there tends to be on critical goods, but we've taken a sort of slightly wider objective and are thinking more about the resilience of supply chains in general and the role that freight and logistics plays in ensuring and developing that resilience. So I will stop now. I think there's a facility for asking questions which I can pick up at the end. Otherwise, I think that will probably suffice for the overview. I will leave you with the thought that government now takes freight and logistics seriously. I think it is unlikely that it will stop taking it seriously anytime soon. So I think there is space within this policy now to make some quite significant changes. And the challenges, the resilience challenges, the decarb challenges, the challenges of adopting new technology, I think are only going to accelerate in this sector. So Future of Freight and the Freight Innovation Fund is a start, I think, not an end point. But put your questions in the chat and we can come back to them at the end. Thank you very much.
Good morning, and thank you very much, David, for a really interesting overview into Department of Transport's Future of Freight strategy. My name is Alistair. I'm the Head of SME Development here at Connected Places Catapult, and I also serve as the technical lead for Connected Places on this particular programme. So what I'd like to introduce to you today is the Freight Innovation Fund, which David has clearly outlined where this sits. And can I really honestly say that, we're really excited to be working on this particular program, and we really hope that we can engage with all of you more in the future. Next slide, please. First off, perhaps I could just introduce Connected Places Catapult for those of you who don't know us. We are one of 9 leading technology innovation centres in the UK, covering topics such as high-value manufacturing, digital technologies, and medical research. In particular, what we do at Connected Places Catapult is we are the UK's innovation accelerator for transport systems, smart cities, and place leadership. Effectively, what we're looking to do is to bring the latest in technology and services to the places where we work, live, and play. Next slide, please. Okay. So the Freight Innovation Fund, it is a £7 million fund, which the money for which has been supplied by DfT. And we are looking, and the defining characteristic of this programme is that it focuses on all modes of travel within the freight sector, both moving between them and those issues which affect both sectors, 2 sectors or more at the same time, sometimes referred to intermodality or multimodality. The program has 2 main components. It has a cluster program, which is going to run throughout the duration of the program, and that is focused around a common vision for how we can help the freight sector to evolve. Accompanying that is a program of sequential accelerators, 3 in total, which will help 36 of the latest SMEs, most technologically innovative SMEs, to help tackle specific challenges that arise within that vision and from within the cluster. My brilliant colleague Andrea will talk to you more about the details of the accelerator later. Next slide, please. So the Freight Innovation Accelerator, cluster, is there to offer organisations the opportunity to become part of a larger network of all kinds of organizations. It will have targeted business support and will look at building a community of SMEs and large organizations and academic organizations who between them maybe haven't had the chance to network together before, but through creating a melting pot effectively, we hope that the ideas exchanged, the networks built, that we can create new and groundbreaking ideas that will help change the sector in the future. Next slide, please. So what is the cluster going to do? Well, it will run throughout the 3 years of the program. We'll be organising networking events to bring together various parts of the industry, perhaps parts of the industry that haven't met before. We'll be looking also at adjoining sectors that maybe haven't considered freight as an opportunity before, but who have considerable value to add within to the freight sector. We'll be looking at how we can improve equality and diversity within the sector, public relations and communications, and also, crucially, look at how we can make the sector more attractive to investment, as well as helping to upskill parts of the industry in issues such as cybersecurity, corporate finance, IP, and many more issues. Next slide, please. So the way the Freight Innovation Accelerator and the Freight Cluster come together is that the cluster will run throughout the program, and approximately every 9 to 12 months, we will start an accelerator. The cluster will work across a common vision and will be engaging with the sector throughout. And then from the cluster and from the conversations that happen within the cluster, we hope to be able to work out what the specific challenges, the knotty challenges, the difficult things to solve within the sector are. Those are the challenges that will be answered by the accelerator themselves. We also hope to have a strong relationship built with the Freight Innovation Council, and the cluster will establish its own board to help steer the direction of travel. We would invite some of our partners and others to be able to join that board in order to be able to help us steer the direction in a way that is meaningful for the whole industry. Off the back of the cluster, what we hope to achieve is we hope to be the platform for future accelerator cohorts and challenges. We hope to be able to establish innovation funding programs such as the Transport Research Innovation Grants program that David mentioned. We will branch out into other sectors to look at how we engage with them, as well as looking at investment, public relations, and crucially, building a community of innovating organizations around the freight sector. Next slide, please. So, how do you get into the freight innovation ecosystem? Well, there are 2 routes in, one of which is through the Accelerator Open Call, which opened on the 9th of January. Everyone who goes through that process is more than welcome to sign up, and there is a tick box in the application process which will take you into the cluster program. There is also a cluster registration page which you can see at the top. These slides will be coming around afterwards, and please do feel free to click on the link, and that will take you straight to the registration page. Once you've registered for the cluster, we will bring you onto our Connected Places community platform, where we have the opportunity to meet Francesca, my colleague, who is the cluster manager. She will be able to do what we call a BNA, or business need assessment, with you, which will help to establish some of the needs and requirements that you have, and how we can help advance your participation in the cluster and indeed perhaps in the future accelerators. Once you're in the cluster, there are many opportunities, calls to action. There'll be investor days, there will be a regular newsletter, we have community events and engagement, and we'll look to work with you to help you make you part of that wider cluster. So perhaps if I can just recap just a little bit on maybe what the difference is between the cluster and the ecosystem. The cluster will run throughout the program and will focus on a high-level vision for how we steer the sector going forwards. The accelerator will pick up on specific challenges, and the challenges for cohort 1 will be explained by Andrea later. And we'll have specific challenges for each of the future accelerators as well, which we hope that you will be able to help us steer the direction of. So that's the route into the freight innovation ecosystem. Next slide, please. And can I now hand over to Andrea, my excellent partner in the program, who's going to talk to you a bit more about what the accelerator program is about. Thank you.
Thanks, Alistair. Please, next slide. Okay, well, this is our first open call for the Freight Innovation Fund Accelerator, and we're planning to launch 2 new calls later in the program. So for this edition, we are looking to select up to 12 SMEs with a technology readiness level 5 or above. So this means a company with a technology validated in an operational environment and with at least a large-scale prototype. Each successful SME will have the opportunity to access up to 150K of grant funding to conduct their trials with industry partners, and the amount of the grant will depend on the proposals that we receive during the application. We also have a match funding element of 30% on top of the grant funding amount, and this amount must come from the SMEs. So this was designed to be in kind, and it could include, for example, an equipment that you already have and you will use it for the trial, or maybe a training that you have to provide to your employees to test your solution. You can find a list with all the costs that you could potentially include as match funding on our accelerator website in the funding section. So just to give you an example, for example, if you have been awarded with 150K of grant, you have to put an extra 30% on top of that amount. That will be 45K, having a total trial cost of 195K. We want to see all those details and we want you to identify which costs are part of the grant and which costs are part of the match funding in the application form. We really want to understand that part there. And then the payment structure will be 60% upfront in April and 40% at the end of the accelerator program that will last 6 months. SMEs must address one of the program challenges to apply to the program. And also, as part of the program, we are bringing industry partners on board that can support and provide access to testing facilities to the SMEs to try out their solutions. So basically, SMEs have 2 options to apply to the program. The first one is with a trial proposal, looking for a match with one of our program partners. And the second option is with their own testing partner. So if you are already in discussions with a corporation or maybe with a local authority to try out your solution, but you don't have the funds for it, you can apply together to the program to get the funds. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have 3 industry partners confirmed so far that are Portsmouth International Port, Costain, and Port of Tyne. And there are more partners coming on board from logistic, road, and rails. We are still finalizing the last details with them. So stay tuned to our social because we are going to announce this on LinkedIn. So I recommend you all follow us on LinkedIn if you are not doing it right now. And also we are going to include this information on our accelerator website. Please, next slide. Okay, the SME offering. So beyond access to funds and the opportunity to test your product, we also want to help the SMEs to scale their businesses, providing a tailored business support. So at the beginning of the program, we will run one-on-one sessions to explore your needs and identify the support and business development opportunities that Connected Places Catapult can provide you to each of you. So these include marketing and investment support with experienced coaches, where you will have the opportunity to review your company strategy or to review the challenges that you have in each of those areas with our coaches, having one-on-one sessions with them. This can also include introductions to potential customers and any other type of support that we identify in the needs assessments. Also, as part of the program, we will provide trial support to help you to design and implement your trial during the program. In September, we will have our demo day. This is a celebratory event where SMEs will be able to showcase their solutions and to show what they have achieved during the trial to key stakeholders in the market as investor, potential clients, academia, local authority, and any other relevant actor in the sector that we can invite to this event. And last but not least, all the SMEs will have a membership to the Freight Innovation Cluster and all the activities that we will hold with the rest of the ecosystem, the ones that Alistair just explained. Next slide, please. Okay, now I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Nick.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nick Talbot. I'm a service design lead at the Connected Places Catapult. And together with my colleague, Alessandra, we've been working on identifying the challenges. Just before we present them, I would first like to take everyone through the process we undertook in order to identify them. Next slide, please. Perfect. I think first of all, it's really important to emphasize the intermodality and multimodality at the heart of all of the challenges, completely in line with the strategic intent that David shared earlier. In addition to that, we also had to make sure that the challenges were of national interest and contributed towards strategic alignment in the freight space. And I think that we were pretty successful in that. Next slide, please. The reason we were successful in that is because we undertook a co-design process. That meant that we reached out to industry experts, industry leaders, and we hosted a wide range of interviews in order to better understand the freight space and hear perspectives coming in. We then gathered a wide range of challenges, and then with the industry partners and DFT, we worked on refining and prioritizing those challenges to make sure we really were putting forward 3 of critical interest. And then finally, once we got that set, we validated them with DFT, and they are now ready to present to you today. So I'd like to hand over to Alessandra to present the 2023 Freight Innovation Fund challenges. Again, apologies for the slight delay in the video. There we go. All yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Nick. Hopefully you can see me and hear me. I'm Alessandra, I'm a service designer, and I will walk you through the 3 challenges that we selected for the fund. So challenge number 1 looks at new data collection and sharing technologies or methods to improve impact on the planet and efficiency and to drive better coordination. So with this first challenge, we want to look to allow new technologies or data collection methods to be deployed, developed and be deployed in order to improve ferries' impact on the planet, the overall efficiency of the sector, and a much better coordination and collaboration between the different transport modes. Next slide, please. So to give you a bit more context on this challenge, considering how broad and impactful it is, data collection and sharing are the most widely recognized challenges within the sector, according to our key stakeholders and partners. So since data limitations are often associated with a broad range of challenges, we believe that by addressing some of them, we can have a great impact on the planet and the whole sector. So in particular, as a few examples, data can support prediction of disruptions and delays, can help manage empty freight spaces, as well as poor allocation of goods. And ultimately, by accessing and sharing data, we can unlock a great range of opportunities to innovate, decarbonize, and also develop the freight sector and the relationship between all the various transport modes that we are going to be working with. Next slide, please. Challenge number 2 looks at achieving a better aggregation and disaggregation of large loads from rail to last mile logistics, as well as always transport modes to allow goods to enter cities without aggravating emissions and traffic. So with this challenge, which is a lot less, which is a lot more specific than the previous one, we want to focus on solutions that will benefit the link between large rail loads and the smaller last mile logistic vehicles to allow more goods to travel sustainably. Next slide, please. So this challenge looks more specifically rail freight as possibly the most sustainable freight transport modes, which will allow more and more goods to be shipped and to travel sustainably, allowing supply chains and sector to get closer to net zero goals. And moreover, our research and our stakeholders have reported that developing solutions related to this challenge will actually unlock investment and growth for rail freight, thanks to our more credible method of aggregation, disaggregation, and consolidation. So this will allow large loads to be easily distributed through last mile logistics and consolidation vehicles and access cities more sustainably. Next slide, please. So this is our last challenge. So challenge number 3 looks at designing new solutions for intermodal hubs within ports for containers, logistics, and their allocation to other freight modes. So as ports are some of the largest intermodal locations for freight, we think that they can actually become sharing hubs where technologies and innovation can address some of the key challenges across various modes. Next slide, please. Sports play a huge part when it comes to, again, connecting all of the different freight modes. We want to unlock decarbonization and innovation opportunities that can reduce the impact on the planet, reduce the impact on the supply chains, and also allow better seamlessness between all the modes. So considering also that the majority of goods enter the UK through ports, those locations play a massive role in distributing the goods within the country. So their sustainable practices and efficiency will actually have an impact on the whole supply chain. So these are our 3 challenges, and now back to you, Andrea.
Thanks, Alexandra. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, great. Well, here we have the program timeline. So as you know, we launched the open call on January 9th, and the application deadline is February 5th. So in February 13, we will contact those SMEs that were shortlisted and provide all the details about the selection process. But basically, we have 2 phases. So the first one is the technical due diligence. This is a 30-minute meeting with technical and industry experts from Connected Places Catapult. This interview will be around the innovation of the technology, feasibility and details of the trial, the impact it could have, and sustainability. So we will analyze your proposal from a technical point of view, and I recommend you to bring your CTO or someone with technical expertise to this interview. And the technical due diligence will take place between February 21st and 22nd. The week after that, we will have the commercial due diligence, where you will be assessed by our program partners and DFT. It's a 15 minutes interview where you will have 5 minutes to make your presentation, followed by 10 minutes of Q&A. This interview will be focused on the business model, how you can work with the partners, what benefits you can bring to them, etc. And this final interview will take place on February 28th. I'll send you an individual invitation with all the details to join to both sessions, and they will be virtual. During March, we will run the administrative process to get the grant documents, and the accelerator will start in April. So we want to have our welcome day the first week of April, and this event will be in person in our London office. Again, the program will last 6 months, and the demo day will be at the end in September. The date is to be confirmed. Next slide, please. Okay, how to apply? There are 2 simple steps. First, you have to create a profile on the platform with your basic information, and then you will be able to fulfill and submit the application form. So you will probably have to access the website again once you have created your profile and press the apply button again to submit the form. Please make sure to verify that you receive a confirmation email once you submit your application. It's important to clarify this because sometimes people get confused and believe they have already applied to the program just by creating the profile, and it's not the case. If you want to apply now, you can scan the QR code that we have here. This will direct you to our accelerator website, and again, the deadline is February 5th. Then, as I mentioned before, there are 2 ways that you can apply to the program. So the first one is with a trial proposal, looking for a match with one of our program partners. And the second one is with your own testing partner, that could be a corporation or a local authority. So you can apply together for funding. Regarding the eligibility criteria, you must address one of our program challenges. You must have a technology readiness level 5 or above. You must have a UK registered company. You must be willing to test in a real world environment, and you need to have commitment and willingness to engage with the program and get the most of it. And next slide, please. Okay, last but not least, this is our scoring criteria that we will use to evaluate your applications. So we have 6 criteria, and here you can see the weight that will carry each of them. So the first one is the solution. Here we want to understand if the product is innovative enough, with a clear, unique selling proposition, and the development stage of your solution. The criteria number 2 is the testbed proposal. So once again, the use case that you submit must address one of the program challenges. And then we want to see here a clear description of the trial, a timeline, cost breakdown, identifying the grant and the match funding, what you are expecting to achieve, how you are going to engage with the partner. So please make sure to be concise, but provide as many details as possible. Also, to complement this info, you will be able to upload a supporting document in the application form. This is optional. The testbed feasibility, we want to understand if this proposal is feasible within the time frame, level of resources that you and the partner have, the budget and maturity of your solution. Then we have impact, where we will evaluate the short and long-term impact of the trial in the sector and the benefits of adopting this technology. Then we have the teams. So here we are looking for applicants to demonstrate that their teams has the necessary skills, knowledge, and background to deliver. So rather than just listing out the team members' names in the application, I would recommend you to tell us a bit more about who the team members are and what they bring to the table. And finally, traction. Here we want to know if the products satisfy the market, if you already have any traction, and if you have a sustainable growth plan for the future. So next slide, please. Okay, well, we can start now with the Q&A section. So Kat, can you please bring us all to the stage? Okay, hello everyone. Can you please turn on your camera? Okay, hey Nick. Okay, amazing. Well, we have a lot of questions. That's a good thing. So the first one is, will all participant details be shared as time is extremely tight to submit a proposal in 2 weeks? I'm not completely sure what do you refer when you say participant details, but if it is the open call details, I think we shared that during the call. If you have any specific questions about that, can you please leave it here in the Q&A box? And the second question is, we would like to know the timing of the calls for future freight demonstration projects. We are not ready for the current one. So yeah, as I mentioned, we are going to launch 2 other open calls. We still don't have the dates, but probably the second one will be at the end of this year, and the third one will be at the beginning of 2024. Obviously, we are going to announce all this information in our social network, LinkedIn, Twitter, our website. Follow us. The third question is there a consideration to look outwardly from the port and the impact of pollution on surrounding areas? And how do you think this program can connect data sources to develop a visualization of this, and how you can create policy change? I think this question can be for the Daryl, David, or Nick. I'm not sure who want to respond this one. Maybe David. No one? Nick?
If no one's else going to speak, I can just say something very briefly. I think it's a good question to. I would relate it perhaps to the impact that the project is going to make. So, in measuring pollution in the surrounding area to the port, then obviously any decrease in that could be seen as an impact. I definitely think it's important that anybody who considers applying is looking to go beyond kind of a proof of concept being TRL 5+, that they are actually looking towards some kind of measurable results, let's say, by the end of the trial. So measuring something like that is definitely something that SME could consider. And in the case of a port, we have some port partners. So again, a discussion to have with one of the port partners if that's the area you want to apply to.
Okay, thank you, Nick. The next question, can I ask only UK registered companies can apply for this fund? Yeah, you can be located based in another location, but you need to have a UK company register and a bank account in the UK. And next question, given the cluster doesn't exist yet, then how can the SMEs be selected, as it feels the matchmaking element haven't been quite set up? Okay, well, for this question, the cluster exists right now. We launched the cluster with the accelerator, and the matchmaking element will come in the selection process. So our partners will be part of the selection process, and the idea is to select companies that the partners are interested to work with. So there will be have the matchmaking element, and then once we start the program, SMEs will have meetings with the partners to actually explore the trial opportunities and understand how they can work together, and obviously design the trial for the rest of the program. Okay, next question. Do you need to propose a trial with an industry partner, or can it be an agnostic solution that could be used in the future, given industry partners aren't fully sorted yet? Yeah, ideally you have to submit a proposal with sorry, do you need to propose a trial? Yeah, ideally you need to propose a trial with an industry partners. But in case that we haven't announced the partner yet, for example, I don't know if it is right and we haven't announced the partner yet, I would recommend you to submit like something, a proposal a bit more general, and then once the partner is on board, we can check how these match with them, That would be my recommendation at this moment. I'm not sure if maybe Alistair want to add something here.
Simply that we are going to be bringing on board new partners. We've had some really good conversations, and we're just in the process of finalising the details of some of the partners who will be part of both the cluster and working to look with SME Accelerator. If you have an interesting idea, please get in contact with Andrea, and she can help facilitate that relationship, and we'll do our best to help you along that journey.
Thank you, Alistair. So I recommend you don't leave like the submission of the application to last minute, because if you need help from our side, it's better if you start like completing your application right now, so we can actually guide you in these type of questions. The next one is challenge 2. How does that fit with the rail data marketplace being set up? Alessandra or Nick, do you want to respond this one?
I might actually jump in on that one if you don't mind. So we are, as part of Connected Places Catapult, has a rail and stations milestone, and we are talking to the rail data marketplace at this point in time. We haven't drawn a link between Freight Innovation and the rail data marketplace right now, but we will be looking at that in the near future. So I think, bear with us on that one.
Okay, great. Thank you, Alistair. In terms of the connectivity of hardware and software solution, is there a consideration to the use of open standards in order to minimize the risk of lag in by the larger vendors? I think I will ask Alistair to help me with this one as well.
I think my simple answer to that one is that anyone who has progressive solutions, which would include the use of open standards, would be more than welcome. These are things that we're going to have to look at in the future. So I would encourage you, yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Next one, will be good to share timescales for future application slots. Also, a list of technical docs required to submit a compliant application. Yeah, as soon as we have the dates for the new open call, we will let you know. We will share an email with that information. Also, if you want to, I can share with you a list of potential technical documents that you can submit to the application. I can share that with you after the webinar. Okay, the presentation mentioned a rail hub to come soon. Will this not apply to railway projects even if there is a parallel and integrations? Okay, this is about the partners. Will this not apply to railway projects even if there is a parallel? Okay, yeah, a rail partner is coming soon. Alistair, again, I'm not.
Maybe I can help out there.
Okay, thank you.
Talk about rail hubs. Hubs is just one word that covers quite a range of different rail infrastructure. So previously, with partners and the industry experts, we've been talking about things like sidages or sidages or depots, any kind of places where rail will interact with other modes, or there could be a loading or unloading of goods. So that's the kind of hub is a general term to gather quite a wide range of different rail infrastructure locations.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Okay, the next question, does the trial partner have to be from the UK? Yep, the question is yes. Okay, will the second cohort follow a similar timeline, and when will the call for this be announced? Yeah, the second cohort will follow a similar timeline, and once again, we will let you know as soon as we have a date for the second open call, but probably this will be at the end of the year. Are digital twins allowed for the trial, as our physical demonstrator can be built in 6 months? I think Nick can also help me with that question.
I'd probably like to hear Alistair's view on that first, just to give some perspective more broadly around the area. We have been thinking about non-physical ways that partners can contribute. So we have been asking for things like access to digital platforms to test integrations and things like that. So the digital space, in some senses, we are looking into, but I can't remember exactly where we're at with digital twins, Alistair.
So Bates Caswell is home to the DT Hub, Digital Twin Hub. So we do have quite a bit of knowledge and expertise in digital twins, specifically in the application of digital twins, which is very much what this program is about. We would, I think, be happy to look at solutions for them, and we know that some of our partners are. The key question for me is, does it answer the challenges? If the digital twin is the solution to the challenges, then I think that's perfectly a valid reason.
Okay, thank you. Question: how can a TRL5 product solution have traction? Well, the answer is very simple. Here, not only TRL5 companies can apply TRL5, 6, 7, 8, until 10. So those companies probably will have attraction. And then if you don't have a client right now, maybe you can tell us, I don't know, we are planning to run a trial with this company, or we have this in our timeline. Like, we want to understand what is your plan to the future, your future plan to grow the company. That's what we want to know in the traction sector. Okay, the people on this web event. Okay, this is about the first question that they were asking for the participant details. Unfortunately, we can't share participant details because of GDPR reasons. But if you join to the cluster, you will be able to network with the people that join to the webinar, probably. So, because I want to assume that all of you that are here are going to register to the cluster, so you will be able to network with them there. We have set up a demonstrator project already, and this involves a number of SMEs. So could this application be done as a consortium? Okay. Primary, and this involves a number of SMEs. Okay, so you say like 2 SMEs or 3 SMEs applying together. Okay, this is an interesting scenario. I won't say no because I would like to know more about it. So if you want to, please email me and we can have a discussion to actually understand what do you have in mind for this.
If I may jump in on a little bit on that one, Andrea, I think our answer might revolve around we would only have one recipient of the grant, but I don't believe there's any objection to subcontracting. So you could form a consortium with a lead partner, and that might well be a viable solution. Do talk to Andrea a bit more detail about how that works.
Perfect. Thank you, Alistair. Regarding challenge 2 for the accelerator, can someone on the panel provide a concrete example of the aggregation and disaggregation problem? Alessandra or Nick?
Yeah, I'll take a first shot and then pass over to Alessandra, see if I've missed anything. I think key to kind of one or two of the challenges here is the issues around large containers and how difficult it is to kind of optimize the usage and transport of the goods within, the usage of space within, and the kind of transport of goods from within large containers. And so in terms of efficiency, which obviously ties back again to climate change, environmental concerns, decarbonisation, and so on. The more efficiently we can use the space within large containers, the more efficiently we can move them so that the points of disaggregation are quicker and they're more relevant to the onwards journeys. I think there's probably about 10 different examples I could give there. But if you do want to know more about the challenges, or if anyone does, I suppose, Andrea, they could reach out to us asking the questions, and we can maybe give a little bit more information about the background of the challenges.
Yeah, for sure.
Alessandra, did I miss anything there?
No, I agree with you, Nick.
Cool.
Okay, perfect. Is the health and safety of drivers of all vehicles who use mobile devices in the industry a possible route for applying? I think, Nick, you can help me with that one.
I think a blanket answer here would be as long as it relates to the challenges. So as long as whatever you're whatever your technology is, whatever your innovation is, however you want to test it, as long as it can be directly related to one of the three challenges at least, then by all means apply. And as Andrea said, there will be opportunities throughout the application process as you progress to kind of explain more and have interviews and so on.
Thank you, Nick. Is it possible for Connected Places Catapult to share the co-creation report on each of the three challenges to provide a bit more background on each challenge? Nick and Alessandra?
I think, again, maybe a quite vague answer. Again, for kind of GDPR and other reasons, I don't think we'd be able to go into kind of super specifics. But on the topic of if people want to know a little bit more about the challenges and where they're coming from, then I think that, yeah, send things through to Andrea. Me and Alessandra can kind of answer them in turn. Or if we see a number of questions in a particular direction, we can perhaps come up with a package that addresses that range of questions. Hopefully that will be helpful.
Thank you. Eligibility. Should we have a UK registered company like a legal entity incorporated in UK, or the UK establishment of the overseas company with bank account in the UK bank is also okay? I think my answer for this is you need to have a UK registered company. That's my concrete answer for that. What is in and out of a scope? Example, are we including drones or ground freight, sensing? Okay, Nick. Again, this is about like what is in and out of the scope in each challenge.
Yeah, again, it's totally open to kind of your interpretation of those challenges. Obviously, in each of the three challenges, we've kind of named a location or a kind of mode of transport explicitly. And so as long as you think that some of these can combine, then that's great. I wouldn't call myself a technical specialist, but for example, with drones, I know that National Rail has certain policies regarding kind of the restriction of access of drones to kind of the proximity of certain rail spaces. So there are as long as you see it fit as applying to a challenge and you think that there's a possibility of a legal and kind of valuable test, then by all means apply.
And if I might briefly jump in there and say, Connected Places Catapult is an innovating organisation. This is an innovation project. We quite happily accept that we don't know where the right answers will come from. So please feel free to take answers from other sectors, your own innovative approach, because we will turn nothing away at face value. We really are interested to see how this can evolve.
Thank you. And conscious of time, we have the last question again for Nick. You're very popular today. You mentioned digital twins. Is there a consideration of an information management framework for each of the challenges, which will enable the development of the data layer more effectively?
Again, it sounds like quite a specific question that probably needs unpacking. So if you want to send that one through to Andrea, I'm sure we can look through it, maybe get back in touch to kind of explore it a bit more. Difficult just from the text there to understand exactly how to reply succinctly.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, to joining us today. Again, if you have more questions, please feel free to email me, and I can connect you with Alexandra and Nick if it is related to the challenges. And yeah, once again, thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the cluster, and I hope to see your applications for the program. Thank you. Bye.